Nickelodeon has a bunch of characters with a wide array of skills, from the smarties to the powerful to the surprisingly talented. Makes you wonder, how well would these characters work together in a heist crew, and which would fit the various roles of a heist crew best? Well, that's what we're here to figure out. Hey guys, I'm Brad with Wicked Binge, and this is which Nickelodeon characters would make the best heist crew. Now, you can't have a heist crew without a leader. For a heist to be successful, you're gonna need someone who can be the brains. To be the brains takes more than just intelligence. They also have to be strategic, along with being someone who's charming or confident enough to get others to follow their orders. When it comes to this role, our top choices have to be Jimmy Neutron, Sokka of the Water Tribe, and Lincoln Loud. With Jimmy, he's not only a boy genius with an ability to calculate all the factors you would need to take into account during a dangerous heist, but Jimmy is also the only one of our choices to have actual heist experience. In the episode The Great Egg Heist, Jimmy and his friends successfully break into a museum. Although Carl messed up the last step of the plan, Jimmy's crew was still able to get away with their crime, showing off just how impressive Jimmy's planning skills are.
But that's my project. Any questions? No? Okay, goodbye.
While he might not have any heist experience per se, Sokka had several big wins that not only showcase his skills, but give a clear reason why he's the brains of Team Avatar. After all, Sokka figured out how to fix the Mechanist's air balloon design, and later conceptualized water-bending powered submarines. Sokka also comes up with not one, but two escape plans after he and Zuko break into the Boiling Rock, the Fire Nation's highest security prison. That last point especially emphasizes Sokka's improvisation skills, which can be important in a heist situation, where anything can go wrong at any time. Finally, we have Lincoln. As he said many times over, he's a self-defined man with a plan. Despite all the chaos in his life, Lincoln uses his level-headedness and organization skills to keep things running. Whether it's getting his sisters to their activities on time and keeping to their schedule, or knowing how to properly use his family's talents to defeat an evil duchess, there's very little that Lincoln can't do when he puts his mind to it.
The key to having a plan is to always have a backup plan.
It was an incredibly close call, as we feel any one of them would have made an excellent brains. Ultimately, we had to go with Jimmy Neutron. He has the most relevant experience, and his intellect can certainly help get himself and his crew out of jams. Next, we move on to another very important role, the SAFECRACKER. This crew member often has nimble fingers, a level head, and the ability to work under pressure. We've got a pretty unique selection for this role: Plankton, Toph, and Manny Rivera, aka El Tigre, with each character having their own techniques when it comes to safecracking. Obviously, with Plankton, he has the most experience with this sort of thing. The guy is almost constantly trying to break into Mr. Krabs' vault, and while these plans almost always fail, he's usually pretty successful with the actual breaking into the safe part. Not only does he know the ins and outs of various security systems, but Plankton's small size could also give him a huge advantage, or at least it does when it comes to squeezing through a safe's cracks. Not so much when he's trying to get the treasure out of there without being squished by it.
I had no idea this stuff was approved for restaurant use.
When it comes to Toph, it's less about her being able to crack the safe's combination and more about her literally being able to crack the safe. Being a master metal bender, she could ideally tear through any safe like it was cardboard. But if you need a more quiet and subtle approach, she can do that too. It can be assumed that with her seismic senses, she would be able to see the mechanisms within the safe, allowing her to crack it in the traditional way. There actually is evidence of this. In the episode The Puppet Master, she unlocks a chest using a homemade key, and it only takes her half a minute to do it. But whether she uses her own key, cracks the combination, or literally just rips the door off the safe, it's nice to know that she has options. Finally, we have the hero of Miracle City, Manny Rivera. While he may not have nimble fingers in his El Tigre form, he does have nimble claws. Made out of some sort of mystical metal and passed down to him from the first El Tigre, his claws are not only sharp as heck, but also incredibly strong and durable, likely allowing him the means to claw his way through any safe. Additionally, while Manny may not be the smartest boy around, he does have a super-villain grandfather who we're sure has taught him a thing or two about breaking into safes.
I am here to help.
But while Manny and Plankton would both be good options, the versatility and pure strength of Toph is just too good to pass up. Moving on, it's important to note we live in a high-tech world filled with security and surveillance systems that can stop any unprepared heist crew dead in their tracks. So this crew is gonna need a tech-savvy hacker. For this role, our options are Sandy Cheeks, Mr. Denzel Crocker, and Rise of the TMNT's Donatello. With Sandy, she's one of, if not the smartest person in Bikini Bottom. From robots to rockets, she's an inventor by trade, and a pretty talented one at that. However, for as good as she is with tech, we've admittedly never seen her hack into anything on screen, although we're sure that she wouldn't have too many problems with figuring out how to do it.
Hey, who wants to play Dodge the Jump?
When it comes to Crocker, however, although he's much more manic and unhinged than Sandy, it can be argued that his accomplishments are much more impressive. For as crazy as he is, it's been shown time and time again that he is right on the edge of being a certified genius. He's invented many things that can be used to either track down or counter and defend against various elements of magic. He even knows how to link science and magic together, which is impressive and could be incredibly useful, since we're sure most security systems aren't equipped to handle a partially magical attack. Our last option is in a league all his own. In all incarnations of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Donnie is a techie who does machines. This is taken to its extreme in the 2018 incarnation, where it could be argued that he's the most powerful he's ever been. Donnie is never without at least one piece of tech on him, and despite being only 14, he's invented some really amazing things. He's also the only one on this list with an on-screen example of his hacking prowess. In the episode Hot Soup the Game, Donnie just casually reveals that he's hacked into every security camera in New York and can access them at any time through an app. For these reasons, we just had to go with Donnie.
Well, you better grab some toast, fellas, because you are all jelly.
Heists aren't always about aggression, however. Sometimes you need someone low-key to blend in with the crowds. That's why we'll need a master of disguise. We only have two options: the always cheerful SpongeBob SquarePants and the wicked alien invader, Zim. SpongeBob is very playful, and he has a few silly costumes. He knows how to play a character, and while people may not always fall for his tricks, at the very least, SpongeBob knows how to be a distraction. In the fan-favorite episode, Mimic Madness, we learn that SpongeBob is actually pretty talented at impressions, even having the ability to shapeshift himself to look like the people he's mimicking. Again, this is less about him actually tricking people and more about getting their attention. So while he may not be as low-key as other Master of Disguise characters, we feel that SpongeBob could get the job done, or at the very least, distract people long enough for the rest of the crew to play their parts.
Yeah, you said you would take the day off!
But I feel great today.
Zim, on the other hand, seems to have a bigger success rate when it comes to the actual disguise part of the role. Outside of his usual normal boy disguise, he successfully disguises himself as an old man, Santa Claus, and even Professor Membrane. Every one of his disguises worked, managing to fool everybody outside of Dib and Gaz. However, we're unsure if that says more about Zim's disguise skills or the intelligence of the humans that surround him.
Oh, baby! You are Erkin property!
Honestly, this was a close call. Ultimately, we felt that SpongeBob was the better choice, being much more of a people person than Zim. Whether they need to fight off guards or keep the crowds under control, every good heist crew needs a bit of extra muscle on their side. Someone who can show off the power of brawn when necessary. There are plenty of tough Nicktoon characters, but the options we decided to go with were Helga Pataki, TMNT 2012's Raphael, and Patrick Star. Helga is infamous for being the toughest girl in her grade. She shoves people, casually punches guys like Brainy in the face with little effort. If you get in her way, it's likely that she'll threaten you with old Betsy and the Five Avengers, aka her fist. There are a couple of drawbacks. Out of all our options, she's the youngest. We can't imagine a 9-year-old standing a chance against many adults, no matter how tough she may be. Outside of Brainy, we don't really see her successfully fight with too many people, and instead see examples of her getting intimidated by Big Patty and easily beaten by Wolfgang. Sorry, Helga.
What the heck are you trying to say?
I love you.
Raphael, on the other hand, isn't really held back by his age, despite only being 15. Although the 2012 version isn't the largest or buffest version of Raph, in fact, he's the shortest of the team, he manages to stand on his own. He can go up against opponents much larger than him like Slash and Rocksteady, and, like all the other Ninja Turtles, he's trained in a variety of fighting styles and weapons, allowing him to stand a better chance against surprise threats. Last but not least is the superstar C-star, Patrick. Like Raph, he's not the strongest in the series, but he's still often said to be one of the strongest characters in SpongeBob SquarePants. Unlike SpongeBob, Patrick doesn't really struggle with lifting super heavy objects, and can be insanely strong at times. But while his most obvious weakness is his stupidity, we should also note that unlike someone like Sandy, he isn't traditionally trained in something like karate, which allows him to often be outmatched in a one-on-one fight.
You can buff that up.
Although there's something to be said about raw strength and intimidation, the best types of muscle knows how to do more than just throw a punch or two. What better option for a heist than an actual ninja? We're gonna go with 2012 Raphael. As much as we may love a good fight, when plans go wrong and your crew gets pushed into a corner, sometimes the only way out is to blast your way out. So, we're gonna need a skilled gunman. Being a kids network, we don't see too many characters using firearms, but even laser guns are still a rarity. In fact, the only other main character we can think of who uses lasers on a fairly regular basis is the kid who's already serving as the brains of her crew. So, by default, the role of gunman is going to XJ9, aka Jenny Wakeman. Being a robot, she's got a bunch of gadgets and weapons, and a good chunk of those weapons are laser guns that are strong enough to blast through walls, metal, and even asteroids. If you need something blasted, Jenny is definitely the robo-girl you need to call.
It's just you and me now.
When all is said and done, and you finally got your hands on your stolen prize, it's time to make a clean escape. When it comes to this, you're gonna hope that you pick the right getaway driver, someone who's not only fast behind the wheel, but knows how to avoid obstacles. Although not all our choices have their driver's license, they do have plenty of skills. Those choices being Gerald Johansson, Lori Loud, and Debbie Thornberry. Now, admittedly, we were gonna go with Arnold as one of our choices, as there is an episode that shows off his talents as a go-kart driver. But then we remembered, in the climax of Hey Arnold the movie, it's Gerald who's convinced to drive the bus back to the neighborhood after their original driver is knocked out cold. Prior to this, it's stated that Gerald is a master at playing the arcade's runaway bus video game, having the top score, and he's actually able to transfer these skills to real life. Granted, he does crash at the very end, but outside of that, it's a strong showing of his driving skills. Also, he's 9. The fact that he was able to do that at all is impressive.
I feel like a prisoner in my own home.
Next is Lori Loud. As the oldest Loud sibling, she's pretty much the designated chauffeur when it comes to driving, so it's safe to say that she has the most driving experience. It may not be as impressive as driving a runaway bus, but given that she's never had any notable crashes with Vanzilla, Lori's driving skills are still pretty evident. The Wild Thornberry's Debbie is a similar case, being a teenager who learns how to drive by using a pretty large and hard-to-control vehicle, with the family's RV leaning more towards bus than van in terms of size. In that sense, the fact that Debbie's able to successfully drive it in the first place is commendable, as we're sure many teens would struggle. However, while we praise Debbie's efforts, she's still shown to be not the best driver. She's had a couple of crashes, and even when she doesn't crash, she's reckless, like most young drivers. Just look at how she drives in the Rugrats Go Wild movie, and that's supposed to be after she's learned how to drive.
Get back here and put your seatbelt on!
While having the ability to properly drive a family van may not be the most amazing feat in the world, it's still Lori's lack of major crashes and competency behind the wheel that make her our go-to getaway driver. We finally come to our final crew member, someone who's always a bit of a mystery due to getting recruited at the last minute. You never know what they'll bring to the table, but that's what makes them the wild card. With this being Nickelodeon, we've got plenty of wild characters as well as characters that just have some really cool abilities. Since we can only pick 4, we're gonna go with Aang, Sheen Estevez, Timmy Turner, and Danny Phantom. Let's start with the character who is the most powerful. As the youngest avatar to master all 4 elements, Aang is one of the strongest benders who ever existed. Even if he were to limit himself to only his airbending, it's still an ability that not only catches most people off guard, but can also be used in a variety of different ways, both offensively and defensively. Any crew with Aang on it is gonna have a much higher chance at getting away with the goods. Only question is, how okay is Aang with pulling Heist?
I want to know how to shoot fire out of my fingertips.
Moving on to someone who's, well, not exactly normal, but still pretty different from Aang. Shyr is easily distracted, hyperactive, and totally obsessed with Ultra Lord. He's loud and annoying, which could cause tension on most teams. But despite his flaws, Shyr has his strengths, allowing to have a few wins under his belt. In the Jimmy Neutron theatrical movie, Shyr is able to hijack one of the Yokian ships when Nick is unable to, allowing them all to escape the alien planet. In the series, his terrible singing can be used to lull Twonkies to sleep, being the one to ultimately save the day in that special. Going back to the Great Egg Heist episode, Shyr successfully distracts the museum's guards with his puppets. Simply put, Shyr may not seem like much, but he's full of surprises.
That'll be $4, please.
Then we have Timmy Turner. Timmy makes it into this section due to his access to magic through his fairy godparents. In a sense, Timmy could wish for almost anything the crew needed to succeed, no matter how crazy it may be, and could maybe even wish for the object they were after. He's pretty much the definition of overpowered. However, there is one huge catalyst to having Timmy on the team, namely the rules. If Timmy were to wish for something that's impossible due to the rules, or gets the attention of the Fairy Council, a group that wouldn't be too happy with Timmy using his fairy's magic to commit crimes, the crew would have a lot of new problems. Finally, we have Danny Phantom. Danny is another character from this selection who's not only powerful but flexible, having at least a dozen abilities that can be used in a variety of ways. He's got Plasma Blast, his Ghostly Wail, Ice abilities, Invisibility, Intangibility, and even Flight. All these abilities could help get the crew out of a jam, with that last one especially allowing for at least one of them to make an emergency escape. Not only that, but Danny isn't limited like Timmy, nor is he quite as moral as Aang, and needless to say, he's much more powerful than Shyr.
Whatever you're up to, it ends now.
So the wild card goes to everyone's favorite half-ghost superhero, Danny Fenton. And there you have it, our Nicktoons crew. They may not be the most conventional, but they seem pretty talented. And who knows, they may have a shot at stealing the Krabby Patty's secret formula. Alright guys, that's it for today. But let us know in the comment section if you agree with our picks, and what you think their likelihood at success would be. Also, tell us what we should cover next. Remember to hit that notification bell and binge more of our videos. But most importantly, stay wicked.